In September 1966, a U.S. Army agent walked into a packed New York City subway station during morning rush hour and unleashed bacteria on 3 million people. No explosion, no warning, no hazmat suits, just a paper bag, a light bulb, and a government that had already decided you didn't matter. Nobody knew, nobody consented, and it worked perfectly. I've got the file. Every word of it's real. This didn't start in 1966. It started 24 years earlier, and it started with fear. Somewhere in a Pentagon office in 1942, a general is staring at a map of American cities, wondering which one to attack first. His own. World War II is at full tilt. And inside that building, military officials are losing sleep over one specific nightmare. Their nightmare wasn't bombs. It was germs. Silent. Invisible. Unstoppable. Japan had a biological weapons program. Germany had one. The Soviet Union definitely had one. And the United States had no plan, no defense, and no idea how fast a biological attack could tear through an American city. So President Roosevelt made a call. He authorized America's first biological warfare program, officially to study the country's vulnerabilities and build a defense. What they left out was everything. Their method of studying vulnerabilities was to attack American cities. Secretly, no warning, no consent, no oversight, not in a lab, not on a military base, on real American streets, with real American people. They weren't just testing bacteria, they were testing how far they could go and how long they could keep it quiet. The answer to that second question, 20 years. By 1966, the New York City subway was moving roughly 3.5 million people every single day. And to the U.S. Army, that wasn't a transit system. That was a perfect laboratory. A subway is a sealed environment. Tunnels, platforms, ventilation shafts, and a massive rush of air every single time a train enters a station. If you wanted to know how fast a biological agent could move through an enclosed urban space and infect the maximum number of people, you could not design a better test environment. The operation itself was almost insultingly simple. Army agents, no uniforms, no badges, dressed exactly like everyone else, entered the subway system during peak rush hours between September 7th and 10th, 1966. Each one carried a paper bag. Inside the bag, light bulbs. But these weren't regular light bulbs. They'd been prepared in Army laboratories at Fort Detrick, Maryland, filled with Bacillus globigii, a bacteria the Army classified as a harmless simulant, chosen specifically because it behaved like anthrax without actually killing people. At least, that was the plan. As a train came screaming into the station, the agent would pull a light bulb from the bag and drop it onto the tracks below, and physics took over from there. When a subway train enters a station, it creates a massive air displacement, like a piston driving air forward. That blast would shatter the bulb on impact and instantly aerosolize the bacteria, shooting it through the entire platform, up through the ventilation shafts, and into every corner of the station. Detection devices were planted throughout the system to measure exactly how far it spread. The results came back, and they were, by every measure, a success. Bacteria released at 14th Street were detected all the way up at 59th Street. Not just in the air, on people, coating their clothes, their skin, their hair. Every commuter who passed through those platforms during those 6 days went home that week unknowingly carrying U.S. Army bacteria on their bodies. One person, a paper bag, 6 days, 3 million people exposed, and not one of them had any idea it was happening. The Army had just proven something terrifying, that a single operative with no special equipment could silently infect an entire American city. No explosion, no warning, no way to ever know it happened. The Army's position, then and now, is that Bacillus globigii was completely harmless, a safe simulant. Nobody got hurt. Move along. But one researcher spent years digging into this program, and what he found contradicted everything the Army was saying. His name is Leonard Cole, a biological and chemical terrorism expert. When you expose 2 or 3 million people to any airborne agent, even a relatively harmless one, you are mathematically guaranteeing that some portion of that population will be vulnerable. The elderly, infants, people recovering from surgery, people with respiratory conditions. And the Army knew this going in. They ran the numbers. They understood the exposure scale. They did it anyway, because everything was classified and they knew nobody on those platforms would ever find out. But here's the part that should stop you cold. The Army also modeled what would have happened if, instead of Bacillus globigii, they had used a genuinely lethal pathogen. Same delivery method, same stations, same ventilation system, same rush hour crowd. Their own internal reports concluded that thousands of people would have died. They were running a rehearsal for a mass casualty biological attack, using the actual citizens they were supposed to be protecting as the test subjects. And nobody was watching. Nobody was stopping them. Not a soul. Nobody talks about what came before New York, but they should. This program had been running since 1949. In September 1950, the U.S. Navy sprayed 2 types of bacteria over the entire San Francisco Bay Area from a ship stationed offshore. Monitoring equipment at 43 locations across the city confirmed that nearly all of San Francisco's 800,000 residents had inhaled a dose large enough, in the Army's own words, to fall within the range of infectivity for anthrax. 3 weeks later, 11 patients checked into Stanford Hospital with severe, highly unusual urinary tract infections. One of them, Edward Nevin, a man who had recently undergone prostate surgery, died from a heart valve infection caused by the exact bacteria the Navy had released over his city. His family sued the federal government in 1981. They lost. The Army also released bacteria over Panama City and Key West, Florida. They sprayed zinc cadmium sulfide, a known cancer-causing agent, over Minnesota. Let that sink in. A known carcinogen, sprayed over American neighborhoods by the American government. The particles traveled more than 1,000 miles, detected as far as New York State. At Washington National Airport, agents disguised as passengers walked the terminals, releasing bacteria from spray devices hidden inside briefcases. They even tested inside the Pentagon itself, pumping bacteria through the building's air conditioning system just to see how fast it would spread through the corridors of American military power. 239 documented vulnerability tests, 20 years, dozens of American cities, millions of Americans exposed. None of them warned, none of them told, not one of them ever compensated. The program ran through multiple presidential administrations, fully funded, fully authorized, hidden in plain sight inside the Department of Defense budget. Not one senator asked a question. Not one journalist broke the story. Not one whistleblower came forward. 14 years of complete silence. It finally broke open in 1977. A Senate subcommittee started pulling threads. The Army had nowhere left to hide. They confirmed the Subway Experiment. They confirmed San Francisco. They confirmed the scale of what had been done. Their defense came down to 3 things. The bacteria were harmless. It was necessary for national security. And this was a different time. 3 years later, in 1980, the Washington Post obtained the Army's internal report on the New York Subway Experiment and published it. For the first time, everyday Americans could read in black and white exactly what had been done to them. People were furious, and then they forgot. That's always how it goes. Because here's the part of this story that hits different from everything else. Nobody was punished. Nobody. Not one person. Not a single scientist. Not a single commanding officer. Not a single Army agent who walked those platforms dropping bacteria on morning commuters. By the time the Senate hearings happened, the people responsible had already moved on. Retired, collected pensions, some already in the ground. The government issued no formal apology to New York City. No compensation to the millions of people exposed across 2 decades of tests. No acknowledgement to Edward Nevin's family in San Francisco. Zero. Just a quiet confirmation that yes, it happened, and a promise it wouldn't happen again. How reassuring. The people on those subway platforms in September 1966 were not criminals. They were not enemy combatants. They were regular New Yorkers, going to work, going home, grabbing coffee, maybe thinking about what's for dinner, minding their business. People with families, people with mortgages, people who paid their taxes and trusted that the country they lived in was, on some fundamental level, working in their interest. People exactly like you, and the government, the same government asking for their trust, their taxes, their sons for the draft, was down on those platforms shattering bacteria-filled light bulbs under their feet. The Army's justification was national security, protecting America from a Soviet biological attack that might never come by running biological attacks of their own on American citizens who never got a vote. And here is the question that was never asked in those Senate hearings, never answered in any declassified report, never addressed by a single president, then or since. At what point does protecting the American people by secretly experimenting on the American people stop being protection? Because if the government can decide, without asking you, without telling you, without any accountability whatsoever, that your body is fair game, then what exactly are they protecting? This isn't speculation. It's declassified fact, backed by Senate testimony, Army internal reports, and a Washington Post investigation that named names. The files are real. The subway platforms are still there. If this story hit different, drop it in the comments. I want to know what you're thinking right now. And the next time you're packed into a crowded train, breathing recycled air, surrounded by strangers, trusting that the world around you is what it appears to be, just remember, it wasn't always, and nobody came to tell you. Stay safe out there and sleep well. Follow the ink vault. We go where the others don't.